Thank you to the moderator. So please allow me to continue speaking with you from these chairs, not on the podium, and I will not share any kind of PowerPoint too. Just, we can talk directly like this, and let's see what you think about what I'm about to say. Okay, when we talk about the Kalinga in Southeast Asia, I think most of the history that we've known so far has been pretty much, staying in the ancient era, right? The era before Jesus Christ, and the era after the Kalinga kingdom collapsed in 261 before Jesus Christ, right? All the, the spread of the refugees, the spread of the culture and influences indirectly after the Kalinga kingdom collapsed. What I'm about to say is that I would like to give you a kind of, probably you're going to take it as a new knowledge, because I'm going to tell you about how Kalinga, existed, preserved from 13th century onwards, not by the Kalingas, whatever, in South Asia or in India, but in Southeast Asia. I'm about to tell you how the Indo-Malay people play a role in preserving the Kaling heritage, the Kaling legacy, through their own way, okay? So if you come from Malaysia and Singapore, I know previously that we have Dr. Siva, talking about the Indian in Malaysia and Singapore, and something related to race. Probably now, if you hear about the word Kaling and talk with the Malaysian Indian or Singaporean Indian, they would get angry to you. Why are you calling us, this word? This is racial slur, this is derogatory, don't use it. But you know what happened? Yeah, in the last several years, the youth of the Indians, the Hindus, the youth of Malaysian Hindus and Muslims start to come up and reclaim that the legacy of this Kalinga is basically ours. Let me tell you the story. So this topic is my dissertation, okay? I do a PhD. Focusing only tracing the word Kaling from 13th century to the 20th century. And I found through numerous classical texts written in Javanese, written in Malay, Arabic script, and also English, these words, okay? So there is obviously transformation of, if you would call it, identities of the Kalingas, right? We know this one Kalingas, but when you come to the Southeast Asia, maybe you're gonna find a mountain named after Kaling, for instance, Tanjung Kaling. A continent, even this Indian continent, in the classical text, they call it Benua Kaling, meaning the continent of the Kalings, the Kalingas, right? So I have come across several classical texts mentioning this word, and it just become mesmerizing because the Kaling identity is so much different than what the current people understand, okay? And the text on and on in Arabic script, mentioning their roles, let's say the Kaling sailors, the Kalings, kings, the roles that described in this classical text is so much grander than what has been dichotomized, corrupted in the English newspapers that we read, produced in the 19th century, for instance, right? Especially from the colonial newspapers. So there is something special about this, yeah. This is totally, thanking to the Indo-Malay archipelago, the population, the people who write those letters in Arabic, Malay Arabic scripts, and mentioning Kaling traders, on and on, wealthy, rich traders, for instance, like the Marakayars, the Periatambi, all those kind of names that they call as Kaling. Probably now you're not gonna gonna understand that these names are not Odisha's people. This name does not portray any kind of Bubashneshwarians people. These are from South India, these are Tamils. But that's how the Malays, the Muslims in the Southeast Asia remembers the flow of the people from these Kalinga areas, okay? That's how they remember. Because at that time there was no map, right? There was no topographic technology where you can pinpoint, oh, this guy come from that area. At that time, the map that used at that time totally is based on the sailors' information, right? Just a single name, a continent, right? When the Malays say, hey, where you come from? I come from Benua Kaling, you know, meaning that I come from the Kalinga's continent. So that's how it preserved, yeah, the identity of the Kalingas that now we talk about this so much, yeah? And there is something very special about this, like, I kind of look at how the trade, you know, the trade between Indians and Indonesians and the Malays before colonialism has continued for so long without being disrupted by a huge war, right? Not like the war that happened between the Portuguese, for instance, with the Malay sovereignties, or the Dutch, or the British. Not even like the Cholas Empire War against the Sriwijaya, okay? Between 13th century onward, you kind of see there is no significant wars happen. It was peaceful. The trade that continued between these two regions was pretty much, you know, entangled between each other. In international relations, we call this, there is that sort of, you know, economic interdependency between the Kaling traders and the Malay Muslim sovereignties, yeah, in Southeast Asia. The other thing is that what I think, you know, allowing this kind of continuity to take place for centuries peacefully is that because I think the global system, the global order at that time, especially the Indian Ocean global order, was non-homogenic, it was open, it was pluralistic, and also, you know, and it was in itself, you know, kind of decentered. It was multicentric, but yet so much unipolarity contained inside it. Meaning, with this kind of global order, yeah, that happening at that time, all these foreigners, all these foreign merchants that come to the sovereignty in Southeast Asia, they could take action and role as the, you know, as the Sultanate's financial advisors, as the Sultanate's diplomats, as the Sultanate's treaty drafters, you know, even the Nakodas, if you know the name of the Nakodas, this is a ship captain. All that kind of positions could occur in those years, even though they are foreigners, okay? They are foreigners, they are not, there is nothing documenting, just like today, you know, oh, you are not born in this, in Southeast Asian cities, why you have this sort of position, what kind of authority, you know, that you exercise when you are not a citizen of this state, for instance, right? But in those days, there's no such things. It's totally about social interdependence. If that foreigners contributed so much to the economy in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, if they contributed so much, just like Marakayar traders, just like Periatambi, for instance, that I mentioned previously, that is super wealthy merchant. Without him, the trade won't happen, won't circulate it in this area. Then that's how, you know, they could be taken as, you know, as the allies of the Sultanate, yeah? So it blurred all the boundaries of the nation states that we now learn, you know, like this. So I mentioned previously, right, I can give you a lot of names, you know, hundreds, not hundreds, probably, depends on the area, but so far the research that I have done has, you know, concentrated only in Sumatra. And I know there are significant numbers of names that were known as the Kalings. And I'm sorry to say, maybe this is kind of a little bit uncomfortable for you, that all those Kalings that known to the Malays, Muslims in Southeast Asia, were mostly Muslims. Either they convert, either they burned. Because let's say in 16th century onward, the flow of the traders that come from India coming from the Coromandel coast, from Tamil Nadu, and the Malabar, the Malabar regions. So this is just understandable, right? Okay, of course they are known as mostly Muslims because they come from that area. But it doesn't mean there's no any Hindus at all, right? There were several rich Hindu merchants that traded in those years. I could give you a name, for instance, Purvan. Yeah, Purvan is working with the British merchants called Francis Light, and he was known as a Kaling. He was a good negotiator, he was a good lobbyist. There was sometime, a crisis occurred between the Sultanate and the traders flying under the British vessels at that time. And this man is the one who was able to negotiate all the terms between the two sides. So you see the diplomatic stuff that's happening over here. So by giving you all this kind of, brief information, maybe I can conclude, we can exchange something more later on by question and answer. I would like to conclude that, the global order of the Indian Ocean at that time playing so much role in prolonging peaceful trade, peaceful relations. It was not authoritarian global order. It was not realist type of global order. It was kind of a mixture between liberal order and, in some kind of cases, realist type of approach. So yeah, that is that kind of a little bit similarities that we can give, right? But the things that I would like to say is that when we talk about Kalinga civilization, Kalinga identities, cannot belong to the Indians people alone. It cannot belong to the Odisha or Bhubaneswar people alone, but it belongs to a wider, universal, global people such as those in Southeast Asia. And I believe if we do something more research, just relying on the local classical text, then we're going to be able to find, some more connection in that term. So Kalinga civilization is global civilization. Yeah, it is not Indians alone. I repeat again, but it belongs to a wider world where universalism, non-hegemonic, unipolarity under mutual respect and economic interdependency, occurs. So yeah, so that's all I think from me. Thank you so much. Looking forward for your questions and answers.